Welcome back. You are still watching Morning Live. Now we take a look at your sport news in this hour. The Bulls Daisies are officially the 2023 Women's Premier Division Rugby champions after comfortably beating Western Province 69-8 in a season which saw them go unbeaten. This is the first trophy won by the team since 2006. And to talk to us about this, we have the leaders of the team both on and off the field, Captain Lusanda Dumke, as well as Women's Director of Rugby, Thando, Desmond. Manana. Oh, Desmond!
That's a
good morning.
That's a new name.
Good morning, Desmond. Welcome to Sports and Money Live. Let me start with you, Thando. Let's talk about how you made the trip across the country to invest and be part of rugby in Pretoria. And we saw how you and your team convinced the Bulls to invest in women's rugby. And has the team just not repaid that with this beautiful trophy?
Yeah, I mean, if you take me back to November, who would have thought I'll be sitting again with a silverware? I think what was important for me was to just do, the final sort of research in terms of how you run that program, especially having women in a camp. There's a lot of things that happen within a camp. They sort of homesick. They're not used to working Monday to Friday, having weekends off. So all of those things, we had to sort of put it together. And I think what was important was time. Time really did something, good for the group in terms of them just having a cohesion, buying into the plan and also executing it very well from a Monday to Friday program. I mean, the ladies would be in meetings, something new for them to start having early morning meetings, and then whatever they'll be doing on the field, it gets shown to them in terms of on the overhead projector by the coaches, and then they go and execute, come back, look at sort of a video session on their same session they've just done, just to be corrected on those things. And that's perfection. So I think for us, what's important is what is done on the other countries is the Bulls have slowly not taken the blueprint from them, but created their own, but fused it with a little bit of those nice insight that I did receive when I was in the UK.
Oh, that's very nice. And for you, Lusanda, I mean, your career hasn't just been, a nice, smooth sailing. You've had your ups and downs. Talk to us about, Mhlawumbe, the differences that you feel you're seeing now being part of the Bulls setup.
Firstly, I think there is a massive change in women's rugby. And I think a lot has changed in terms of us being professional now. We professional setup. Which is something kudala nathi sifuna, because the honest truth is that not all of us will make it to the national team. So it brings hope to those that would wish to make it to the national team but can't. I mean, go rugby, and we get paid for it. And I think it's the first and the last job that we will do. See Thando and Badalo.
And Thando, and I hear you, Lusanda, and I'm going to come back to that a little bit more. But Thando, let's speak about, it's very different. You're working with women now. There's certain elements and certain things that women go through that men in the game don't go through. And I know that at the Bulls, you are trying to make sure that you cater for the way of life of a female athlete and a female rugby player versus men. Talk to us about that.
It's an interesting question you bring up, because I had to then bring and make sure the medical team understands that we're dealing with a female or ladies athletes. And I think the doctor was quite instrumental, Dr. Ntuli, in that, because it was a patient doc sort of confidentiality on whatever they needed from him. So that sort of assisted then having coaches, coming up and facing those type of questions, or even myself for that matter. But we did realize that we need to make sure that we keep, we keep the respect, we give them the dignity throughout, whether it's in their attire, we make sure that within their attire, it sticks to certain colors. We don't go beyond that, because we want to make sure that the ladies are more comfortable. I think also bringing in something so simple like a sports bra. They received a sports bra. That was quite important. And some of them, for example, were so used to using the normal bras. But now we said, no. When you're an athlete or, a lady athlete, you need to wear this type of bra, because we've got to make sure that this is a sort of a athletic environment. It's where basically they spend time in the gym, they spend time on the field. So those were the small things that we had to really look into. In fact, if I were to do something special, we'd also even cracked in should one of our ladies get pregnant within that setup, and luckily for us it did not happen, but we had sort of prepared measures to that point so that we're able to handle it in a most dignified manner and within a team environment where we're able to support even that type of a play, because we're dealing with female athletes and we understand what they go through than men, for example. But also I think what was also important is the type of medicine. I did a search and a study, and I advised the medical staff that we should be more careful on what we give them in terms of the medical tablets, sort of tablets or whatever they intake. It's got to go through the medical department so that they sort of, with taking more tablets or taking more whatever they need to take, it does something to their muscle compared to the male athlete. That was quite interesting.
That's nice, and I love the level of progressive thinking that exists there. Lusanda, let's talk about you now. Firstly, unbeaten this entire season. I mean, how do you feel about the team's overall performance? And does this now make you happy to say, when you were speaking to Thando, he convinced you to move to Pretoria and play for the Bulls Daisies?
Yeah, it was worth it. It was worth it. 14-14. I mean, I think the girls did very well.
And the score lines were impressive also.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think the girls did very well. Into ebendiyithande kakhulu is that regardless of the scoreline, we stayed humble throughout the season, because we knew ukuthi we can never undermine anyone, because every team is actually doing their homeworks each and every game. So siyasahlisa umoya. I understand that we are in a competition, and the only game that matters now, when we got to the semis and the finals, we knew ukuthi the previous game that we played do not count. The only thing that matters now is to qualify for the finals. And now final, we knew the semis do not count anymore. We have a new task, and we did very well with that.
Thando, going into the next season, obviously it's going to be a lot of pressure living up to the performance that we've seen from the Bulls Daisies this season. Talk to us about just that pressure and level of expectation moving into the new season, while you still delving in the victory.
I think what's important is obviously the squad, retainment of the squad. And I think every lady has done tremendously well, where we've done sort of our look and had one-on-ones, basically, where we're only going to lose 3 members of the initial 35-woman squad. So the 32 have done exceptionally well. So they some of them stand. Some of them obviously had long-term contracts, so they don't worry. A person like Lusanda, long-term contract with us, so she has no issues at this stage. But I mean, also those 3 that didn't really make it, it was also for them very tough throughout the season, and we don't want them to go back, sort of try and find. So we'll have some few sort of intakes, but only a few. But for me, what's important is we look forward in preparing for both defending the cup, which is in front of us, but also the opportunity then of the URC, because that talk is also on the pipeline, where they would want to take an intake of half of what the male counterparts have of 18 teams and start that in terms of end of next year. So for us, the long term would be obviously URC Women's League, which is an international competition. Short term is how best can we consolidate post celebrations into preparing for an off-season, pre-season, and we go into defend our cup. So that's just a simple rule from us.
All right, well, there it is. It is the 2023 Women's Premier Division Rugby Champions. It is the Bulls Daisy. Thank you so much, Thando, Desmond, Manana, as well as Lusanda Dumke joining us in the studio as we talk all things rugby and the season that is yet to come for the Bulls Daisies.